thanks to Liz and to the organisers and to all of you for coming tonight. It's great to see such a wonderful turnout. It's with great pride that I stand here before you today as the only party with a clear and firm commitment to implement immediately a price on carbon. It's incredibly important that if we are to address dangerous climate change, that a price on carbon is central to addressing that issue. We can do it through an ETS or we can do it through a carbon tax. There are advantages and disadvantages to both models. A carbon tax is simpler and administratively easier to implement, but an ETS allows us to put a total cap on our emissions and to work within that cap. We're not wedded to either model. It's interesting that we're the only party, often described as a party that's anti-market, prepared to implement a mechanism that is basically a market-based mechanism to bring down our greenhouse gas emissions. The current state of play is that we have on the table, proposed by the Greens, a 2-year price on carbon as an interim measure, supported by Ross Garnaut, the government's own climate change advisor, to immediately begin the work to bring down our emissions while we work through the details of an ETS that's acceptable to the government of the day. Now, the Greens have some very clear preconditions about how an ETS needs to work. The first thing is it needs to have targets that are based on the science, not on what is politically expedient. And all of the science is telling us that we must reduce our emissions by 40% by the year 2020 if we are to change or reverse climate change. Secondly, we need to minimise offsets overseas so that our ETS does what it is intended to do, and that's reduce emissions here in our own country. And finally, we think we must limit free permits and compensation to those industries that are essentially responsible for climate change. Ultimately, to delay action is to deny climate change, and it is to impose a cost, not just on all of you in this room, but to the generations that come after us. And I'm very, very pleased to say that should the Greens get the balance of power in the Senate, our first, most immediate and most pressing priority will be to work with the government of the day to ensure that not by 2013, not at some ill-defined point in the future, but next year we get a price on carbon and we make sure we start turning around dangerous climate change. Thank you.